A man came to the Prophet and asked, "Should I tie my camel or trust in God?" The Prophet said, "Tie it, then trust in God." 3 words that contain an entire philosophy.
The Arabic concept at the center of this story is tawakkul, pronounced tawakkul. And like sabr, which has nothing to do with passive waiting, tawakkul has almost nothing to do with what most people call trust. The common misunderstanding of tawakkul is that it means passivity, that it means you stop doing, stop planning, stop striving, and simply wait for things to work out because you have declared your trust in something larger than yourself. Ibn al-Qayyim, the 14th century Arab scholar who wrote the most systematic analysis of tawakkul, was direct about this. Whoever abandons effort and uses tawakkul as an excuse has not understood tawakkul. He has understood laziness. Tawakkul begins after you have done everything you can do, after you have tied the camel, after you have prepared the campaign, after you have given the relationship everything it required, after you have done the work with full effort and full intention. And then, in the space between your best effort and the outcome you cannot control, tawakkul is what lives. It is not the absence of effort. It is the release of the outcome after the effort has been complete. And that release, genuine, practiced, rooted in a real understanding of what is and is not within your control.
Before we can understand what tawakkul is, we need to be clear about what it is not, because the confusion is widespread and consequential. Tawakkul is not fatalism. Fatalism says, what will happen, so nothing I do matters. This is the opposite of what the Arab scholars taught. Khalid ibn al-Walid, who we have explored on this channel, prepared obsessively, scouted terrain relentlessly, drilled his soldiers until their execution was automatic. And then he trusted. The preparation and the trust were not in conflict. The preparation made the trust possible. Tawakkul is not the removal of fear or anxiety. This is perhaps the most important clarification. The person who practices tawakkul does not stop feeling fear. Ibn al-Qayyim identified 3 conditions that must be present before what you are practicing is genuinely tawakkul, and not one of its counterfeits. The first pillar is knowledge. You must know what is within your power and what is not. This sounds obvious. It is not. Most human anxiety is generated by the confusion of these 2 categories. We agonize over things we cannot change and neglect things we can. Tawakkul begins with the clarity of the Stoics, the dichotomy of control that Epictetus described, but goes further. It requires not just intellectual acknowledgement, but a practiced, embodied understanding of the boundary. The second pillar is effort. You must have genuinely done what is yours to do. Tawakkul without effort, as Ibn al-Qayyim was emphatic about, is not a spiritual virtue. It is a spiritual excuse. The camel must be tied. The work must be done. The relationship must have received your full presence. The campaign must have been prepared. then, and only then, is the release possible. The third pillar is the release itself. Not the performance of release, the actual letting go of the attachment to outcome. This is the hardest of the three, because the ego has a sophisticated way of pretending to release while secretly maintaining its grip. True release is detectable. It produces not indifference, but peace. The Sufi masters, particularly Rabia al-Adawiyya and later al-Ghazali, wrote about Tawakkul as the specific antidote to a specific kind of fear. Not fear of physical harm. That fear is information, and the Arab warrior tradition honored it as such. The courage of shaja'ah that we explored in the Maruwa video is not the absence of fear, but the movement toward it. The fear that Tawakkul addresses is subtler and more corrosive. The fear of outcomes, the anxiety that lives in the gap between your best effort and the result you want. The mental energy spent calculating, replaying, predicting, and worrying about things that have not yet happened and may never happen in the form you are imagining them. Ali ibn Abi Talib, who we explored in the previous video, said, "Do not let the worries of this world consume you. What is written for you will reach you even if it is between two mountains. What is not written for you will not reach you, even if it is between your two lips." This is not fatalism. It is the specific claim that anxiety about outcomes is a misallocation of the most valuable resource you have, your attention. Tawakkul is the practice of redirecting that attention from the outcome you cannot control back to the effort you can. The Arab masters were practical about how tawakkul is built. It is not achieved through a single declaration or a spiritual experience. It is built through repeated practice in small things before the large things require it. The first practice, after completing any piece of work, a project, a conversation, a decision, consciously name what you have done and what you are releasing. Not in your head. Write it. I have done X. I have not done Y because it is not mine to do. I release the outcome. The explicitness of the practice builds the muscle. The second practice. When anxiety about an outcome arrives, and it will arrive, ask immediately, is there anything remaining in the effort category that I have not done? If yes, do it. If no, the anxiety is noise. We cannot leave tawakkul without returning to the warrior tradition, because it is there that the concept finds its most dramatic expression. Tariq ibn Ziyad, the general who burned his ships on the shore of Iberia, was practicing a form of tawakkul. He had tied the camel as thoroughly as any general in history. He had prepared his forces, crossed the sea, assessed the enemy, and then, in burning the ships, he released the outcome of retreat as a possibility. Not because he did not care about survival, but because he understood that the attachment to the possibility of retreat was the thing preventing total commitment to the advance. The burned ships were not recklessness. They were the most dramatic act of tawakkul in Arab military history. Full effort, complete release, forward. This is the warrior's version of the concept, not the passive trust of the person who never engages, the active trust of the person who has engaged with everything they have and then released the outcome to what it will be. Tie your camel. Then trust. 3 words that contain the entire philosophy. You are responsible for the effort. You are not responsible for the outcome. These are not the same thing, and the confusion of the two is the source of most human anxiety. Tawakkul is not the removal of fear. It is the specific practice of not letting the fear of outcomes consume the energy that belongs to the effort. Do the work, all of it, then release what you cannot control. Not in resignation, but in the genuine trust that your best effort is what is yours to give. What happens next is not. Subscribe to Desert Mind, new Arab wisdom every Tuesday and Friday.